All right, what's going on, Consciouztv, your favorite breakdown commentator? Welcome to another riveting episode of the Consciouztv platform. You already know what I'm here to get into. Before we do so, please go ahead and run the likes all the way up. My channel right now is slightly shadow banned because Cardi B and Aqua V was cussing each other out too motherfucking bad, okay? But I didn't delete the content. It is what it is, all right? So because we shadow banned a little bit, I need you guys to run all the likes all the way up, honey. Run it up, run it up, run it up, run it up, run it up as you come to the sanctuary. You guys know that thumbing up the video not only helps with YouTube's algorithm, but more importantly, it triggers up YouTube's notification system. So when you are thumbing up the video, you are literally knocking on the digital door of another conscious crew member and telling them to get their black asses into the sanctuary on this God-given Sunday. So whether you part the replay gang, active for me in real time in these sky reaps, or an old nasty piece of bush, baby, swing and bang and bully the hell out of that like feature. Also, I got the hiccups, y'all. If you enjoy everything that Kane does here, you can always donate to the platform at Cash App, $Consciouztv, and or paypal.me/Consciouztv. And that's conscious spelled with the Z on the end, just like it is here on the channel. All donation information and social media handles are in the description box below, as well as scrolling from right to left at the bottom of the screen in red and white. And my moderators also do their fair share of rotating all necessary handles. Also, make sure that you have your notification bells set to all. And last but not least, please share the stream out to wherever it is you have digital community, whether that be a YouTube community wall, your Snapchat, your MySpace, the dark side of Twitter, Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you lay the link. Just let them whores know that we're out, we're live, and we're certainly in color. And with no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, hopefully I just got rid of them hiccups, shy. All right, what's going on, Conscious Crew? We're not going to be here for a long time, only for a good time. I can never find my headphones when I motherfucking need them. Where are they? I don't know. My God, today. So we're going to have a courtroom day over here on the Consciouztv platform. We'll be coming back. We got to get into Nicki Minaj and her court bush. We got to get into Trasher K and Cardi B and their court bush. We got to get into more Megan Thee Stallion and Milagro Scams court bush. Okay, it's gonna be a lot of courting going on today. We are here to discuss Church Sector Alum King Jives, who has a major legal victory in a 2023 defamation lawsuit that was filed against him by Bishop Wayne Felton out of Minnesota, girl. Okay, something was in my spirit and told me to go ahead and peek on over there and see what the hell was going on with Jives' case, because, you know, I have had my head in the sand, child. I've been minding my business and these motherfucking celebrities. But I said, you know what? I ain't heard nothing in a while from, you know, what Jives got going on. And you guys know that Jives, nor Felton can really speak on their case, okay? So if you're just not looking at the docket and you're not looking at the procedures and what's going on, you just really won't know what's going on unless somebody is reporting on the case. And that's what I'm going to do today. Now, you guys know that I've been following this controversy since the day that it broke out. As a little bit of a backstory before we get into what's happening right now, you guys know that Bishop Wayne Felton out of Minnesota and King Jives, they had a personal relationship of some kind. They were developing a friendship, etc. King Jives has had Bishop Wayne Felton on his platform to talk about homosexuality and to have, you know, those churchy, sectory type of discussions, okay? because Bishop Wayne Felton is a character all in and of his goddamn self. And amidst all of this, there was an alleged controversy that broke out in Bishop's Minnesota church, where he was accused of having an extramarital affair with another member of the church who also happened to be married herself. She penned a letter documenting and chronicling her affair with Bishop Felton. This caused a major divide within the church. It was devastating to his ministry. The church members were running around with their, like chickens with their heads cut off. And at that time, Bishop was allegedly considering stepping down. That did not end up happening. He ended up maintaining his role and his pastoralship. Because King Jives is in the business of kingdom news, when this controversy had broke out, members of Bishop Felton's congregation reached out to Jives. They were informing him about what was taking place within the congregation. They were providing him with all of the information, all of the letters, etc. Baby, it was loaded. It was a lot going on. Shout out to Auntie Trish for the old nasty piece of child support check. Thank you, Auntie Trish. God bless you, my love. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Yes. Thank you so much, my love. I love y'all down boots. And once again, y'all know I do this for y'all, baby. So once again, all donation information is in the description box below and scrolling from right to left at the bottom of the screen. God bless you, Auntie Trish. That just rose my aura, honey. So, you know, all this controversy had broke out and everybody ran to King Jives to give him the scoop and give him the tea. Now, of course, this put Jives in a predicament because on one hand, he, you know, had a growing friendship with Felton, while on the other hand, there was all this information, you know, being dropped in his lap as it relates to his becoming friend. Fast forward, there was a communication, particularly a video chat call between Jives and Felton, and allegedly within this video call, Wayne confessed to certain aspects of the controversy. And the interpretation of this exchange between Felton and Jives was that Wayne didn't want Jives to use his platform to magnify the controversy and preferred to keep things in-house and to keep things and contain things to the congregation. This put Jives in between a rock and a hard place. Jives ultimately decided to be true to himself and be true to his mission statement, which is to stand in the gap for those who are oppressed, those who can't advocate for themselves, to speak truth to power, to bring correction and order and righteous confrontation to spiritual and religious systems. And he didn't make the exception for Wayne just because him and Wayne were having a growing relationship. So shout out to Jives for standing on motherfucking business. So Jives went forth with the story and provided the public with everything that needed to be provided. And as far as I'm concerned, baby, there was no mincing of words, and the situation was what it looked like based upon all provided receipts. Okay? Fast forward from there, a lawsuit then pops up against Jives from Bishop Felton. And the interesting thing about the lawsuit which was a defamation lawsuit, was that it wasn't really about the affair. What Felton had did was he used other things and other claims that he claims that Jives made around his name against Jives to fuel his lawsuit rather than use the controversy of the extramarital affair itself as the center of the lawsuit. Within this lawsuit, Felton accused Jives of, where's my water? Hold on, y'all. I need to quench my thirst. My God, today. He accused Jives of calling him a PDF file, accused him of claiming that his son was a deviant and a pervert, and accused Felton of being a homosexual and a plethora of other things, okay? Now, I didn't see any of those claims. I particularly tuned in to the coverage about the alleged affair, but I didn't see all of the other peripheral commentary, so I can't speak to whether Jive said those things or didn't say those things. If I am remembering correctly, as it relates to Jive's arguments within the defamation lawsuit, he denied slandering Bishop in this way, but nonetheless dissentered the lawsuit. The lawsuit, unfortunately, prevailed against Jives, and Bishop won his suit. Within the winning of that suit, there was supposed to be a mutual injunction order restricting Jives from further commentary and reporting of Bishop and vice versa. Since the conclusion of this lawsuit, it appears to me through the docket and through the proceedings that Bishop wants blood out of Jives. He wants an enforcement of the judgment, and the most recent filings have been extremely petty, in my opinion. But it appears that the force is with King Jives because there's been some major legal victories. We're going to get into those victories. But first, let's start off with the most recent filing from Wayne Felton against Jives. And this was filed on the 30th. So just a few days ago, girl. This is a lawsuit from 2023, baby. And Felton is still chasing down King Jives. My God, today. All right. So this is the most recent filing on June 30th. And as you guys can see here, this is plaintiff's supplemental evidentiary notice regarding defendant's compliance with the court's June 10th, 2026 order. Plaintiff, hold on, I'm magnified this way too big. Plaintiff Wayne R. Felton respectfully submits this supplemental evidentiary notice solely to supplement the record concerning defendant's compliance with the court's June 10th, 2026 order. This filing presents no separate motion and requests no additional relief. In docket 232, the court directed defendant on or before June 26th of 2026 to review specifically identified YouTube videos and either one, delete those videos, or two, file a memorandum specifically identifying all disputed videos and explaining why defendant believes those videos are not subject to the settlement agreement. The court further directed defendant to delete the identified Facebook video and to submit a declaration under oath concerning the YouTube videos identified in docket number 228. On June 29th of this year, plaintiff accessed each of the URLs specifically identified in docket 232. The attached screenshots captured on June 29th of this year depict the status of those URLs as they appeared on the date. Each screenshot displays the applicable URL together with the date and time of capture. Plaintiff submits the screenshot solely as supplemental evidentiary material concerning defendant's compliance with the court's June 10th, 2026 order, and respectfully request that the court consider them together with the existing record and in connection with the matters presently under advisement. Now, hold on real quick. Let me do this. My God. Okay, so then Wayne, because his phone numbers and all of this shit up in here, he submits a series of screenshots. Now, the interesting thing about these screenshots is that he captures videos that apparently are still up on Jives' platform dating back to 2022 and 2023 and 2024. And apparently, these are commentaries that are not even directly about Bishop Felton, but he believes somehow and has interpreted the things being said in these live streams as having to do with him, even though he is apparently not directly mentioned or spoken about, and these commentaries have not a goddamn thing to do with the bishop. And this is petty, petty, petty boots. Now, Jives has responded to these claims. The courts have yet to rule and to decide on the matter, but to be going back to videos as far back as 2022 and 2023 and 2024, like, Bishop Felton really need that. And I'm really curious about what is driving his witch hunt of Jives at this point. I'm curious about that. But let's get into some victories, because Bishop Felton is also trying to enforce garnishment and is trying to suck King Jives absolutely bone dry and leave him in a cardboard box to live off of oodles and noodles for the rest of his life. And despite Bishop Wayne wanting that for Jives, not only has the Lord said no, but the courts have also said hell no. Okay. This order was put into place in June 20th of 2026. The order reads, this matter comes before the court on plaintiff Wayne R. Felton's motions for writs of garnishments. Two judgments totaling $77,000 plus were entered in plaintiff's favor in the action between the parties on December 11th of 2024 and January 23rd of 2025. The first judgment was for $50,000 following an order on a motion for sanctions. The second order awarded plaintiffs $27,000 plus in attorney fees. These awards were entered by the United States District Court for the District of Minnesota and were subsequently registered in the District Court for the Middle District of Florida. Okay. Pursuant to Rule 69, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, courts must follow state law regarding the execution of a judgment, such as in statute here. In Florida, recovery of a money judgment via a writ of garnishment is permissible according to Florida statute here. The courts therefore may enforce the judgment through a writ of garnishment pursuant to Florida law. However, a writ of garnishment will only be enforceable within the bounds of the federal district in which it was issued. And they cite case law here and case law here. And within said case law, it was denying a motion for writ of garnishment because the garnishee was located in the Southern District of Florida, and thus the court lacked jurisdiction to issue the writ. So in issuing a writ of garnishment, the court must not only have personal jurisdiction over the garnishee, but it must also have jurisdiction over the property to be garnished, such as in case law here and here. Here, plaintiff moves this court to issue writs of garnishment against several garnishees who appear to be outside of the court's jurisdiction. In plaintiff's motion, plaintiff lists the following garnishees. Okay, and here is a PayPal, Google LLC. I think one of these is Vimo. I think one of these is Cash App, etc. And guess what? All of those entities belong to the jurisdiction of California, not Minnesota nor Florida. I'm coin. Therefore, each garnishee's address is in another state. Plaintiffs have not, as in Wayne Felton, not demonstrated that this court has jurisdiction to issue a writ of garnishment against garnishees located outside of this court's jurisdiction. So, accordingly, it is hereby ordered that plaintiff's motion for writs of garnishment are motherfucking denied, baby. They are denied, my God, today. Let me show this to you in the black and white, baby, because this is not the Reading Rainbow. My name is not LeVar Burton, and you do not have to take my motherfucking word for it. Hello. Blue. You see that? Denied, baby. Denied. So, Wayne out there on his bald-headed hoe shit, baby. Trying to play them Cardi B games with the king of all kings, girl. And the Lord said, The court said, And I don't know whether Wayne is self-representing at this point, girl, if this is the work of pro se, or if he, is using an attorney. But more than likely, he's probably self-representing, and I'm surprised he did not clock the T. I mean, he's the ones that listed the entities in which he wanted garnished under the umbrella of Jives and didn't put two and two together. I think that people think that when they file suits, for one, that things are just going to go their way. And we can clearly see that that's not the case. I also think that it's interesting that how do I want to frame this? Let me take my time with this. Before we get there, let me pull it back. First and foremost, shout out to Jives, because I'm rooting for Jives in this case, not Felton, for one. I will report non-biasedly on the case, but who I'm personally rooting for in this case certainly is Jives. And I'm glad that he's being met with relief. I'm glad that his ancestors and his Holy Ghost is activated. I am glad that the powers that be are doing what they need to do in a situation like this, because even the powers that be, the metaphysical and spiritual powers that be, know that this lawsuit against Jives is petty and is frivolous. However, Felton won on some technicalities. Okay? And that's unfortunate for Jives, but it's also not the end of the road for Jives. And I'm pretty sure that Felton is not going to see a single red penny of that 75 or 77 plus thousand motherfucking dollars from Jives. And rightfully so. Because I wish that I would be funding a guilty motherfucker. Okay? Now, two things here. For one, I have a lot of respect for what Jives do in principle because I do the same work. We are the bullies to the bully, speak truth to power. And this work is fueled not so much as by clicks and views and not so much as fueled by having a niche, but that niche is birthed out of an actual humanity and an actual advocacy for the weak, for the broken, for the vulnerable. And there's not a lot of people who can do this type of work because of the type of cost that it potentially comes with. And this is where shit gets serious for vigilantes like myself and like Jives. Because you have evil ass narcissistic principalities and forces who are not going to take it lying down that you are giving them their shit to their face, and that you are not fluffing their ego, and that you're not interested in protecting their ego, but you are interested in preserving the truth, even if the truth does not serve them. And so I just want, for one, the audience to remember that for content creators, especially content creators who do a certain type of a work and a certain type of a feel and a certain type of a way, that for the viewers, it may just be content. And that content may come and go. But for the content creators who are really putting themselves on the line, and for the content creators who are really on the field and boots to the ground, that these stories don't end when the live turns off. That advocacy work doesn't end when the lives turn off. The people who connected to these stories, the victims, the accusers, etc., are oftentimes people that you remain in communication with and remain in prayer with and remain in support of long after these stories come and go for the public. Oftentimes, the consequences, the frivolous, shallow, bullshit consequences of standing up for people in the best way you know how, even if your execution isn't particularly perfect. But nonetheless, the energy of your advocacy and the energy of you speaking truth to power is pure of heart and gets met with retaliatory efforts on behalf of a schoolyard bully. So it's unfortunate because what retaliatory efforts like this, when people file frivolous as lawsuits, etc., is that it discourages other people who feel called to this work to come and do this work. It also scares other victims into hiding and into compliance and into silence, because they know that they will be met with grave force and aggression, if they dare challenge the status quo, if they dare challenge the authority, if they dare challenge the governing body, and this is why ultimately matters like this end up really being between the plaintiff and God. This is really not so much as Wayne versus Demario Jives. This is really more so Wayne versus God. Jives is just a chess piece. And that's why Jives is going to be administered a certain level of grace and a certain level of protection, despite the courts having to honor Wayne's plight against Jives on the basis of the law, on the basis of technicality. But this is what's so beautiful about where law and grace merge together. This is the beauty of the marriage between the law and grace and compassion and sovereigns. This is what Christ taught about the middleman of the law, which was virtue. And so for me personally, this is so liberating. And it's such a spiritual and metaphysical thing to see manifested, because we're living in a world right now that's ran by the evil supervillains of Gotham. We're seeing a lot of bad people win in this society. We're seeing a lot of power being yielded and afforded to really bad people. So to see that the good guys are not in this shit by themselves, and that even if there aren't seen forces, there are unforeseen forces that are at work in the lives of people who are doing their very best. May not be the best according to outsiders' perspective and standard, but are doing their personal best to make the world a better motherfucking place. So, I have a feeling that Jives is going to continue to be well, and that favor accordingly will continue to be shown upon him. Because as we know, heaven knows, that Wayne Ass does not deserve a single motherfucking penny from his technical win. Because in principle, this fight was fueled against a blogger and a person who at core told the truth. And if it wasn't for that core truth about a controversial matter and an alleged controversial extramarital affair, the rest of this would not be taking place. This lawsuit is fueled by ego, it's fueled by retaliation, it's fueled by pettiness, it's fueled by greed, which is very shocking to me, because Mr. Felton is a bishop, and my God, have we seen the bishops lately fall so far from grace? The people who are supposed to have sat the closest to the throne of God, the people who are supposed to be the most humble, the most spiritually and emotionally intelligent and mature, who have the most profound humility, be some of the most egotistical, egocentric individuals who are on the church's block. The proper and appropriate thing to have done would have been for Wayne to have taken his licking and owned up to himself, owned up to God, and to whomever he owes accountability to, and focus on his shadow work and focus on his salvation. But instead, he did what sinners are accused of doing every day of their lives, which is focus upon a get back, a kickback, a lick back, and the shallow sustaining of one's reputation. And so weaponizing the legal system, weaponizing and reverse unoing the narrative in Wayne's mind to make himself feel better by identifying as the victim. When all this is about an alleged victim. I mean, this, as far as I'm concerned, is gross manifestation of narcissism. I can see why God is ending the era of the church, because it's no more good. The leaders have led nothing more than their desire to be famous, to be adored, and to ultimately profit, Profit, off of the clout of God and spirituality. I'm happy to see the ending of the religious era. The way that this system has been abused and has been indulged in for the sake of self-enrichment and is self-aggrandizing on the part of those who are supposed to be shepherds and are supposed to be a demonstration of Christ's consciousness and the virtues of a loving, integral God. You know, to see that all Wayne could do with this could have been a testimony. And I thought that this was the route that Wayne was going to go when this controversy exploded, because there was a particular live stream that I tuned into from Wayne's YouTube page, and he was preaching, and he was essentially talking about this controversy. He was admitting that he has had some shortcomings, that he has had trauma around sexual discipline, that he had an uncle who pre-exposed him as a young man to hypersexual content that essentially became a thorn for Wayne and became a point of conflict, and that thorn led him to making decisions that were destructive and that weren't the best. I said, oh, I remember looking at that live stream. But then that live stream immediately was deleted, like within hours of initially being live streamed. And I knew why. And it's because he realized he probably said way too much and that it would conflict with public narrative and that it would be seen as self-incriminating. And he's right. It would have been seen in all those ways, and it would have legitimized the core controversy that Jives was emphasizing and highlighting. But the other caveat to that is it would have been the motherfucking right and integral and righteous thing to do. Because God doesn't call us to protect our reputation, especially not when the truth is teeing. It's one thing if somebody is truly speaking evil of your actual good. It's another thing when someone is speaking of your Carfax. And For a minute, it seems as though Wayne was going to do the work and he was going to go in the direction of self-healing, self-restoration, accountability. I think this would have been a gorgeous unfolding and way to respond to the matter within his church that had now been given visible light to the public. It would have been a great redemption arc, but it appears that that has been short-lived, and it appears to me as though Wayne has returned back to his ego, and he's decided that the cost of working out his soul salvation is a little bit too costly, and he would prefer an intact reputation instead. And that means that Jives has to be the bad guy. It means that Jives has to be the villain. It means that Jives has to be the Judas. And it means that Wayne has to be the victim. That's not going to end well for Bishop. It never does. And it never has. And I couldn't imagine holding some of these high-ranking titles, baby, and playing with God the way that some of these men of God play with God. My God, my God, my God, my God, my God. And then people wonder why their congregation is falling apart. People wonder why they're hooting and hollering and mad about the loss of their income and them not seeing a lot of blessing and favor and having a lot of economic strife and etc. Could it possibly be that a man of God is reaping what he sowed in the fields of hell? You know, because sometimes we become so delusional and so self-deceived that we almost forget that we're the actual bad guys. We get so caught up in reverse unoing so that we don't have to deal with the reality of ourselves. And we tell ourselves a story about ourselves for so long that we actually start to believe that we're not the bad guys. And then that turns into that classic thing that Christ calls a reprobate. When God gives you over to your foolishness and gives you over to your delusion and give you over to your narcissism, and then before you know it, you have no idea that you're actually carving out a path that's ultimately going to cost you your life in many ways. It may be emotionally, it may be spiritually, it may even be materially, physically, etc. Because we've seen this archetypal bullshit represented in the Exodus story. Pharaoh, who was a symbol of narcissism, relentless, unyielding, self-indulgent power. And how God hardened Pharaoh's heart and then used Moses as a chess piece to draw Pharaoh out into the open to destroy himself in his efforts to go back on his word and pursue the Israelites. I see that happening with these bishops the same way. They remind me of Pharaoh. They're so full of themselves and have this glamorized self-narrative about who they think their raggedy asses are. and they think they're the smartest crayon in the book, and they really identify as him in all caps. And they really believe that they're the Prince Naeem of this shit. Only to not know that they have set up the path to hurt themselves in an attempt to afflict someone else. These are the pastors versus God. God is the defendant. These are the bishops versus God. These are the prophets versus God. And the people of God are just the chess pieces on the board, doing what even they themselves may not even want to do and have no choice to do, because it is above us now. It's above us. This situation between Jives and Felton has been ordained. The best thing that Jives can do is what he's doing. Pray and know that he is God, because it's above Jives. This is between God and Felton. And all Jives got to do is keep his heart open, keep his faith, walk solid, and let God do what God is doing. Because Jives will be all right as God is doing what God is doing. So I'm happy for Jives. The courts have rendered their verdict. No garnishment today, my love. You won't be seeing none of that DeMario coin. My God. My God, today. All right. How y'all feel about it, baby? Y'all happy for the king? Y'all gonna be seeing a lot of this type of success. Y'all gonna be seeing a lot of these type of victories, baby. These victories about to come in mass. Baby, these type of victories are about to come in abundance, honey. Okay, keep your eyes wide open and keep your ears close. Auntie Trish says they've all been fired and still working just like, baby. Ain't that's the old saying, Auntie? Is that God is the only boss who will fire your ass and still keep your ass on the clock. My God. That's the word, honey. That preaches. Auntie Trish also says, and then there is that. He just wanted to build his virtual reputation off of Jives' back. Miss me with all of that. My God. We got Pastor in the house. You are so right, because God will not be mocked, and we have the victory. Yes and amen. Shout out to Moses for the old nasty piece of child support shit. Thank you, baby father. My God, I love when y'all bless the king, baby. The king gets to be blessed. Yes. Okay. Pastor also says it's one thing to be fired by God. It's a whole other thing to be fired by God and act like you don't know it. My God. You know, I have come to realize that the algorithm of the church is very similar to the algorithm of social media, where you have a lot of people who have stepped on the stage, not out of genuinely being called to the stage, not out of having a real interest in being on the stage, but are driven there out of childhood fear, childhood neglect, out of a pick-me complex. And the church is no different, where there are so many so-called men and women of God who are occupying roles, titles, and holding power, who use the church to make themselves feel valuable, to use the church and use the obtaining of an audience to treat abandonment, to treat rejection, to treat low self-esteem, and to feel like somebody. It's their claim to any type of social acceptance and social equity. And that's why you have so much abuse and so much abuse of power so rampant within the church, just like you do on social media. You have so many abusive content creators. And you can tell who's mentally ill on this motherfucker. You can tell who was never picked on this bitch. You can tell, baby, who ain't never had nothing. You can tell who's not well. It's obvious, it's polarizing, and it's fragrant. You have a lot of broken, mentally ill people cosplaying as content creators and or pastors and pastorettes. His and hers bishops. Prophets and prophetess. And it's a shame because these people need real help. And true liberation, not pseudo self-love in the form of being overachievers or in the form of being wealthy or in the form of being adored and trying to treat one's inner condition outwardly. Christ says that we must heal from the inside out, not from the outside in. When you're treating your inner condition from the outside in, you're only treating symptoms. You're not treating the virus and the corrosion and the source of that psychic injury and wound. You're just treating the outward symptoms. You're just trying to moderate your behavior. And you wouldn't have to spend your time trying to moderate your behavior and trying to perform virtue and perform good when you can do the shadow work through the life and death and resurrection of your Lord Jesus Christ, who gave you a salvation of total healing and well-being in mind, body, and soul that could naturally result in genuine virtue, genuine charity, genuine sincerity. But so many people are trying to treat their spiritual illnesses by way of instructions from the ego rather than instruction from spirit. And until people in power become interested in actual God and become interested in their actual soul salvation and don't see the church and the cloud of God as an opportunity to get rich and to feel important, but is actually there to treat their condition and then to evangelize what they found within their condition and what they found within the spiritual resources that made them a whole person again to everybody else, then the church will be rampant and tarnished by the very same people that identify as shepherds and stewards and teachers and doers of that which is right, who are absolutely out of order, out of their motherfucking mind and intoxicated, consumed on egotism, consumed on self-importance, consumed in self-centeredness, and who are getting their rocks off by way of having people bow down, having people's blind loyalty, and making a mockery of a genuine path to soul redemption. It's a shame. It is a shame. And, you know, none of these bishops have enough substance to make it about that, to realize that, and to ever do that work. I don't see that. I don't see the potential for that. As far as I'm concerned, these are people who are far gone, baby. They lost in the motherfucking sauce. They've been blind for too long. They've had a telephone pole in their eye for too long. And they've been rewarded for too long by being inauthentic. They've been able to get away with being inauthentic. They have mastered the art of being inauthentic and yet being rewarded with authentic love, authentic reverence, and authentic faith from the people who choose to believe, who are being hoodwinked and motherfucking bamboozled. It's a shame and it's a scam. What I know is that Bishop Felton had an opportunity to really make this about himself rather than to deflect onto Jives. And I hate the way this looks, because there was real opportunity for true demonstration on Bishop's part. None of his scriptures tell him to retaliate. None of his scriptures tell him to try to preserve his ego. What his scriptures and what his Lord and Savior does tell his ass to do is to pick up his cross and follow him. Because in the words of Christ, when they do it to you or when you've done it to yourself, remember they did it to me first. What his Christ told him is, forgive them for they know not what they do. What his Christ told him is to fall to his knees and to repent. To forgive himself and to forgive those who have casted a first stone. What his Christ has told him to do is to submit to righteous counsel and righteous confrontation. What his Christ has told him is that the truth shall set you free. Not denying, not deflecting, not blame shifting, but the truth. What his Christ has called him to be is spiritually mature, to be vulnerable, to confess, to prioritize God's acceptance and God's virtue over trying to look good to people. My God. But Jives is incubated and he's nested. And God is with him. You can never win when you play dirty, says Tasha, my God. Time Slap says, hi, CTV. You always have to remember that the devil sits on the front row at church too. Look, the scriptures say that principalities and wicked forces reside in high places. Those high places are within the sanctuary, within the temple, within the synagogue, within government. Yeah. Within elders. That these high places can be corrupted by the corruptible. Oh, yes. The place that was supposed to be a monument of safety has actually become a mortuary and a mausoleum of dead, hurt people. My God. Yana Van Zant, baby. I fear God and could not dream of playing with him or deceiving his people. Yeah, it's like they almost don't have a conscience. But that's what a reprobate is. Somebody who has lost their moral fortitude, someone who no longer possesses that unique quality called empathy. They have no sense of conscience. Therefore, they are left to the derangement of the ego. Baby, it's bad. Religion makes you perform, and relationship teaches you how to love. Religion says it's all about the hierarchy. The relationship says, I'm willing to get in the mud to help lift you up. Yeah, people who are after their healing use every manifestation to achieve just that. That's what real, true spirituality is, which is reflected in the scriptures when it says that all things work for the will of the righteous, including controversy, including the slander of it all, the witch hunt of it all, including one's personal mistakes, one's personal choices, no matter how good or bad, that all things, that if you are a pursuant of your healing and your focus is the light and your focus is wholeness, that you will find that all things are capable of evolving you and quantum leaping you and transforming you, which is the true spirituality of Christianity, is that it's supposed to be a spirituality of immense and profound transformity by taking deep dives into self, by being willing to do the self-autopsy. This is why Christ was so hell-bent on centering forgiveness in his ministry and removing things like shame and guilt from people's consciousness so that people could have the tenacity and the courage and the comfort to really face themselves without feeling ashamed about what they would find there. And then using those things within their own behavior or within the behavior of others unto them to make themselves into a greater and fuller human being. And Apostle Paul basically says that that's all about burden. Look, spirituality, as romantic and poetic as it is also about doing the hard work, baby. Spirituality, baby, is a dichotomy. It's a duality. It's difficult. It's not all this fluff and abundance and wealth and all of this shit. This is about true personal transformity by way of self-discovery and self-actuality in the name of love, in the name of hope, in the name of faith, in the name of freedom, peace, fulfillment, genuine contentment. And when you really reach those things, man, you become okay for real. You become okay for real. For real. Okay. And that's what Christ ultimately achieved, which was demonstrated in his focus upon the Father, Son, and the Holy Daughter. And not the naysayers of his system, the slanderers and persecutors of his system. And was able to navigate all of that adversity because he was for real okay. A lot of these individuals take more than they give, contradictory to Christ's ministry, which gave more than it took. You don't even really hear so much about people giving to Christ, more so than you hear constantly about the giving of his ministry, the giving of sight to the blind, the giving of hearing to the deaf, the giving of joy and community. Modern day dogma and religion, girl, is all about the big capital I. How can I? Maybe they got ATMs in the hallways of the sanctuary, girl, and a collection plate to go around, and they want your taxes information, baby. What can you do for us? Jesus. My God. Baby, it's upside down. The enemy got the name of God in a chokehold. And it's unfortunate. But God is still a mist. And if you ask God and ask Spirit for genuine guidance and discernment, you will be guided and you will discern accordingly. Time Slap says, whatever hides in the dark will come to the light, the marvelous light, but God will send warning signs before destruction. Oh, yes. You always get the synchronicities of accountability beforehand. You must have just taught a master class in relationship to Jesus. Job well done. And look, I'm the person who don't even artificially wear that title. You will find that most people who are in genuine relationship to God don't. They don't wear it on their sleeve. They don't wear it as a title. They're not showboating as a bishop. They're not showboating as a pastor. Them titles hide. Them titles a lot of time are shields and costumes and firewalls that disguise something much more grim about the condition of the individual. Those titles hardly are ever a reflection of the spiritual hygiene of the individual. You know, it's always a loaded conversation when having these types of talks. So I got to get out of here. I wanted to just come and give you guys that. Shout out to King Jives, girl, for a legal victory and some relief in this petty, frivolous litigating. I hope that Bishop Felton really understands how he looks and really gets to the bottom of himself. I think that him and Jives could use a long overdue private conversation. But as somebody who is a bit of a parapsychologist, if you will, and does a lot of spiritual analysis, it's clear to me that Wayne is trying to treat the condition of his consciousness by way of his ego, and that he's under the belief that getting his lit back on Jives and seeing Jives quote unquote pay for what he did will somehow legitimize the story, the warped story that Wayne is telling himself in his mind. And as long as that's the direction that Bishop Felton is in, he will continue to be met with dead ends. As long as he's off in the wrong direction with the wrong self-narrative, leading from his ego, he will continue to be at dead ends with Jives. There won't be nothing he can do with Jives' ass. Not a goddamn thing. He will continue to be made a goddamn fool out of. He will continue to frustrate himself. He will continue to see his efforts go unfulfilled. So if I was Bishop, baby, it'd be time to talk to God rather than time to talk to the courts again. Because that's where his real relief is going to have to come from. And that's the relief that he really needs. Court is adjourned. If you guys enjoyed the show, please subscribe here. We cover all things, girl. Church news, pop culture. We roast, we gag. We don't give a... This is a wraparound platform, baby. This is a wraparound docket, girl. We can get into the spirituals. We can get into all of the things. When the courts reply to this whole evidentiary hearing situation, I will keep you guys informed about that. Keep King Jives in y'all's prayer. Keep him lifted. Support him. Subscribe to him. Donate to him. Be there for him. Encourage him. He's doing a work that oftentimes is a matter of being overworked and undervalued and underpaid for sure. And if you appreciate the few of us who really get into this thing and who really put ourselves on the motherfucking line and who will wrestle with Godzilla and who will war with the bullies of the schoolyard, then show that love in every way, shape, or form that you're able to, whether that's in energy, whether that's in affirmation, whether that's in support of the platform, in whatever way that you have it to support, because it means a lot to the vigilantes of YouTube, baby. All right. So Godspeed, God bless, and I will see you guys a little bit later. Peace.